That means the place, of course, is again written there. That means why I have to translate it. It is very visible. Place is somewhere where we focus on, where we find out that this is the point where I want to go, or where I want to formulate or reformulate. Space starts to be much more under condition of reflect some kind of dimension, measurement, quality. And of course, in quantitative space is also how I fit to it. And environment is much more based on the feelings, on the how I will fit in it. Or is it something what provokes me, or is it still something what is in silence? And of course, in this context, we already saw before some historical background of it, that how the theater grew up. But basically also, you know, when we started with, for example, initial rituals in the caves, in Altamira, you know already the Altamira is the strongest point of rituals, but the way to Altamira, it's 1.5 kilometers long to tunnel, to this big hall. As in transition between, it's something what was very important for transition in our minds. The same in the archetypes of amphitheater. Much more we saw the stony set. This is the architecture, but what is up there is two satellites. One is down and other up. As in it's closing this kind of universum. I mean, it was related with the community also that these rituals bring up also the question who is looking up to us or who is looking to us. And of course, in this schema of each of period of, for example, Fluxus, or in the other period in the contemporary art history, we can see that everything relates, of course, with the space. We cannot skip it, space, out of us. We are still, either when we are either lonely or we are still in the space. But basically where I try to find it, many of the influences where the space started to be like initiator for the activism or activities, as we name it theater. That basically what I mean also that to be activated for the theater is not to build a theater like the building. Theater is not building. Theater is the social act. And this relates always with the climate or belief in the society. And of course on that point it's very necessary on the contemporary situation to start to map what and where we are. As the creative people, we know that we needed much more influences, much more input to start it, to solve the dimension of articulate the other acts, our activities. I mean, for the theater, I think it's very necessary to make some kind of sandwich of such mapping, in which context we are doing these things, not just for one building. This building stay in some kind of urban set. This urban set is initiate or opportunistic to the society who are living around it. As much more its activity of the made theater brings up also the question of society or in a relative community. And of course, on this community, there are some kind of necessary activities, space and activities. This is much more very, now of course we can continue with many other names or many other locations or many other activities, but this is just basic idea how each of point relate or doesn't relate is the space and activities. For example, on that context of the city, It's much more relative where there are the public spaces, where there are the private areas. Different is on urban or rural location. What you know also about the dimension of how the society feel it, responsibility. Already I hear it here, the basic idea of that point is responsibility about the space. It is much more radical now, the situation after the political exchange in each of our countries, the responsibility, how the people feel it, the space in responsibility. And this is what I mean with the site-specific activism, how the situation can be provocative for activate people for responsibility. Historical background and condition for site-specific, you can say again, it's written there, it was different in the Western countries and Eastern countries. Of course, depend of democratization, but what is much more interesting now, what is going in Eastern countries, we can also look at much more direct what we want to point it. Before in the Western countries, for example, when I can say one example from Holland, how the site-specific started. In Holland, there was much more developed the humanistic or say artistic background in the educational system than was the space, possible space for. That means in the 70s there started to be much more people going out of the academy, fine arts school, universities, and there was not enough space, not enough ateliers. That means what was the classical behavior? People start to look for the empty spaces. That means transition of the empty spaces and rename it, how to say, recycle it, or it's a special word called, I will come there, but basically start to see that possible, for example, empty garage, swimming pool, either some kind of dock or harbor, can be used for such activism, for such necessary ateliers, but also space for presentations, galleries or either theaters or some kind of festivals or facilities. I mean, this provoked also the Dutch government. Either this background comes up, a lot of people come to the street, and this was the action, what they named it in Holland, like paradise revolution. Paradise revolution. They throw a lot of paradise to the building already existing theaters and galleries. This was the provocation on that feeling that it's not enough, that it's not enough, not just space, there is not enough activities for new public, not just for creators, but also for new public. And of course, this was in democratic start of in this period in Holland. I mean, the government recognized that it's much more necessary to focus also all that to new activism. In this moment, site-specific can be taken as the phenomena of political art. Site-specific, it's not just like a beautiful occasional facade theater or facade action, or it is something what is much more related with activism. And you can see in the 90s how we start to work in Eastern Europe.